Hello, retail traders. This is Washboard Jim with a Sneaky Snake trading strategy where I like to talk about chart patterns, moving averages, and being in the now and when to take a trade. So, we're going to talk about the SPY. It's going to be my number one trade of the year every day. SPY and the SPX right out of the gate. I guarantee it, I'm going to try to take that trade every day of the year and build my account up. So, Friday, we looked at the SPY, had a big old breakout. There's a chart pattern in here that caused this breakout to happen, and we call what you call a head and shoulders. So I'm going to get my price line. I'm going to run that. Whoop, that ain't the run. That's the price line. I want to get the trend line. And what we caught here is an inverse head and shoulders. And then she went ahead and broke out once that second line came back and touched. And then you had the big breakout. So how do I identify an exit idea? When you write it open, I didn't take the trade because we were too far up at open. So I knew we were going to pull back eventually because we had too big of a spike. Irrational exuberance. Now if I pull this up on the 5-minute, 5-day, which we're on, that was a double top exit idea. We come up here and hit a double top. So that's part of the exit idea. Now I'm going to show you a little chart thing here. I call it the cheat book. And you could come in here and you can see exit ideas and entry ideas when you start to build that channel out of your resistance. For example, we had the inverse head and shoulders is right here, and we had the double top. Once that thing broke out, hit the double top, 99.9% of the time that thing's going to pull back and consolidate somewhere. So copy and paste this or type in chart patterns, cheat sheet, bullish and bearish, and get you some kind of diagram and learn these patterns. It's a must if you want to learn my strategy. Same thing happened here. We had a big breakout, inverse head and shoulders, boom. Nice little snake, came back and created an inverse head and shoulders, and then had the breakout right up to the 200 SMA for the exit idea. I used moving averages also in an exit idea. In this case, I would have took it and got out of the 200. So we're going to go back to what we saw Friday. Now that we've established a double top, we know we're going to pull back. So she pulled back and she landed right on this support level. If you go across here, you can see that this pulled back here, and that was a support, came out, broke back, and then continued that trend line. So you want to draw your little price line or trend line across from that spot there and connect it to that. You want to draw the snake. So you want to draw the channel that you're looking at here. And you go to the channel bar. And you know you've got a long sell-off on the 5-minute. Started to break out of the channel. Then it came back and found that trend line. That trend line broke out. So now you've got the snake. You've got the total breakout right here. This candle hits the 9, runs up, and then you have the big knife for the double bottom out of the gate on an intraday trade. So it comes back, pulls back, and hits that support level with a higher low. Higher low, and then she starts to build the flag. So we're looking at the trade real seriously right here because it had a higher low, and that would have been an entry idea. So what's going on here is we built an ascending triangle or a symmetrical flag. You could call it either one. You had the double top right here, and then from this previous breakout right here to that. You don't take this trade until you break out, and then once it breaks out, it's going to pull back. So you got to build some kind of flag in here in this thing, and that's when you go into this and you look for the bullish flags that are going to break out. You got a symmetrical, you've got a bullish wedge, you got a bullish flag, and you got an ascending triangle, you got inverse head and shoulders, You got a falling wedge, you've got the double bottom, and you've got the triple bottom. And then when you see flags like this, you know that you're bearish. You can still take the trade, but you got to know that you might be getting out of the trade sooner than you think, because they are continuation patterns that do finally find an end and pull back real hard. So get you a cheat sheet. It'll make all the difference in the world. So now we broke out, we established the snake, and now we've established a flag. You got two flags in here. You got a symmetrical flag. Stops right there. Then you got this one here, and it comes up, so it kind of builds you what you would call a symmetrical flag with higher lows. If you can count to 3, you can trade with me. So on that third time of hitting that flag, we broke out. And then your double top would have been this resistance level right here where we came down and we tested up right there. And then you had a double top right there to get out of that trade. And then she pulls back to that trend line. You could have had you a nice little, at the end of the day, trade right there off the same trend line of the higher lows. So that's one way of taking this trade on a 5-minute time frame. Now, I've been using 1 minutes for a very long period of time, and one of the ladies got in the room, and she likes to trade with a 5-minute, and I think that's more of a universal time frame for traders to take, the 5-minute, the 15, the 30, and the 1 hour. Depends on how you trade, and I've been starting to use the 5-minute more often because I need to kind of blend in with other people. But you've seen this snake break out, then we formed a symmetrical flag, and then she went ahead and broke out of that flag for that exit idea. Pulled back again to support, so if you miss that trade and you come in at the end of the day, you see the 1, 2, 3 out of the snake here, and you realize that you could probably take that trade and run that SPY or that SPX into close. We like to trade that SPX into close if we can get it cheap enough, and then get in and out of it within minutes. So now we look at the 1 minute. We're going to erase all this up. It's kind of about the same kind of pattern. It's got about the same kind of pattern right here. We got the snake, breakout, pull back, higher low, builds a symmetrical flag with higher lows. 1, 2, 3, boom, up to the double top. And it's a lot clearer to me to see that double top breakout off that there line right there. And then she follows down the trend at the end of the day, and that could have been a good $200 or $300 scalp right there, day trade, into close per contract. So that's how you spot them. Right at the end of the day, every Thursday. Let's look at Thursday. Pull up the 5-minute, 5-day. We're going to pull up Thursday. So we had a big breakout. And we know we're close to resistance levels. How do we know that? We pull up the 3-year weekly time frame, and we've got a double top up here that hasn't broke yet. So we know we're at a real hard resistance. Anybody that trades with me knows for the past couple of weeks I've been saying, man, be careful. We're at a high resistance here. We're going to have some volatility, and I think it's more or less a trader's market right now than it is an investor's market until we break them resistance levels. And so we're at a hard resistance. I know that right off the bat. So we go back to the 5-minute, and we're in here. We come in early in the morning, and we've had a huge breakout all the way from 472 to 478. We come back and hit the 200. We're waiting for opening to come in, and all of a sudden we have the big knife. So we build another channel. We got another channel. Pull back. We come up here and we hit a 1, 2, 3 right at open. One, two, three. So we know to get out of that trade because that's a triple top, and we build our pullback. and we wait for it to break out of the snake. So we draw in our trend line. We established one little high right here, and then we went to the next one, and that was right there. And then I went ahead and counted to 3, and we broke out of that resistance level. Once we broke out of that resistance level here on the 5-minute, we got to look for some kind of pattern. So what we had here is what you call a falling wedge, or another symmetrical flag. We had an inverse head and shoulders at the bottom. We're going to draw that inverse head and shoulders line in. See, it broke out of the flag, and then it pulled back. Broke out again and created a little shoulder line off this here head. So we know now, once it came back for the second time down here, and that we were good to go in this trade. If it did break out again and pull back, our exit idea, our stop would be set right here on this trend line. If we held it, then we knew we could come up and go ahead and retest that new high. So we taken our resistance line. We got this one right here. This is on the 5-minute, and we run it to the body of this next candle. So as we broke out, pulled back, and got in the trade on this inverse head and shoulders, which is also a symmetrical flag, once we see that symmetrical flag in here, then we know to go ahead and take that trade off the bottom of this here shoulder, on the right shoulder. You got your left, you got your head, and you got your right shoulder. I never tell anybody to rush in this trade, because it tells you exactly when to take the trade. This here took 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50 minutes before you finally decided to go ahead and break out, and you were squeezing. The squeeze was set up. So I might even take this to the 1 minute, or the VWAP or whatever trade I'm looking at, and run on from there. I got to change this time frame up here to 3 days. Same exact thing in the 1 minute. You had your two-headed snake. You got your left shoulder, your right shoulder. She retests a couple times, follows that trend line all the way up, starting to squeeze out of the pattern, and then you can tell within minutes. I call them out all day long. So get ready, we're getting ready to break. We're down here and we're squeezing at the bottom of the triangle, and that triangle is a symmetrical flag that you see right here. We come from the bottom of the snake and we build that flag. Count to 3, 1, 2, 3. You can trade with me. You got your trend line coming down. You break out of the channel, and then it develops a trend. And I always say, if it doesn't break out at 3 up here, and we're down here for the 3rd time, if it comes up the 4th time, that's your last chance. I mean, it's either going to break out or it's going to come back down and knife back on down. So that's your final say to get out of this trade. Because you already had you had your 3 up here, you had your 3 here. It's got to break out. If it doesn't, that's the best time to get in this and get out of this trade, is what I'm saying. Or you'll end up with something like this. 1, 2, 3. It didn't break out. It came back down to the 4th time, and then sucker punch. So we broke out of this symmetrical flag with this two-headed snake. Two-headed snakes mean we've got 2 heads down here with the left shoulder and the right shoulder, and we squeezed out of the triangle and run her on up and get out of the trade. You know you get out at the 1, 2, 3 when you saw it before, and that's the time to get out right there. She went ahead and broke out a little bit, but man, look at that run that you had. And that's it. That's how you trade the snake. And it happened 2 days in a row. And it happens about every day. So I think if it breaks to the upside at open, you want to be a little shy, be a little careful, and wait for that pullback. Let it develop a trend. Let it break out of the snake. We got our little head and shoulders. Once it breaks out, it creates that symmetrical flag, and then breaks out, you get out of the trade. Then she comes back in. Maybe you come in at power hour and you see it touch that trend line. Then you got your into close scalp. And you have a head and shoulders right here. You got left shoulder, right shoulder, and you got your head. So that's it. How to spot a trade to take every day. Wait for it to break out of that channel. Once it breaks out of the channel, let it form a flag. And then when the flag's formed, go ahead and call the squeeze, and then go ahead and scalp it. Day trade it. Sneaky Snake trading strategy, where we talk about chart patterns, moving averages, and being in the now. And have a great day. This is the SPY. You could trade the SPX. You could trade other commodities, other securities with that strategy. I also like to do this when I'm trading that. We'll pull this up to the 5 minute. I like to use the VWAP. So I'll be watching this VWAP too, and that'll give me some kind of idea maybe when to get it in and out of the trade. We had the snake breakout here that we talked about first thing in the morning. 1, 2, 3, run it up to the VWAP. We tested it once before, and go ahead and get out of the trade. 1, 2, 3. Then we have a head and shoulders. Take the head and shoulders, run it on up, see how far you can get it, maybe up there and break out of the VWAP, who knows. So I run that VWAP along with my regular time frame that I'm using over here. If it's the 5 minute, the 1 minute, or even if I'm looking at the 1 hour, 20 day, giving me some kind of idea. If we're off the 200, maybe take it off the 200 here, like we did on the 1 hour with 3 black crows. And then follow the VWAP in the same pasture. I can't get it. Yeah, I can. You had 3 black crows right here on the 1 hour time frame. We hit the 200, and let me put that little circle on the 200 and see where it shows up on the chart over here. Boom, baby. Then I come over here and I look at the VWAP, and I got it on the 1 minute. Go ahead and see that I notice we have a head and shoulders right here, or we have a 1, 2, 3. Draw that price line in there. That trend line. And that gives me an idea to take that trade and run it up to the VWAP. I got an inverse head and shoulders here on the 1 minute. Put it on the 5 minute. I usually trade it on the 1 minute, the VWAP. Same thing right here on the 5 minute. Got a inverse head and shoulders out of the gate. We pull back. We create that channel. It breaks out of the snake, comes back and creates the inverse head and shoulders. I've been talking about this trade every day for 3 years in a row on how to take this trade. It doesn't take a lot of time. It takes time and patience. Don't rush yourself. Let it come to you, and you'll see the setups, and you'll say, wow, damn, Jimmy was right. Inverse head and shoulders right here. We had the breakout. We hit the VWAP, found resistance, came back down, created an inverse head and shoulders, and then we went ahead and broke out. We could have got out at the VWAP or a little bit higher. And I trade the SPX the same way. I'll look at the SPY and I'll look at the SPX. The SPX VWAP doesn't show up. So we break out, draw in the trend line. Once we broke out, we pulled back, got a higher low out of the snake, take the trade and run it on up. and I'm using SPY VWAP to measure myself in these trades sometimes. We almost went up to where we opened price at, so that would have been another exit idea. As you come up, you say, well, Jim, that's where we opened up at. I said, well, it might be a good idea to spot the candle that's seeing what's coming after that breakout, pull back, higher low, boom. So you draw your trend line. We came right back into close on the 5-minute. Take that into close, run it up to inverse head to a head and shoulders. There you are. There's your head and shoulders, your left shoulder, and your right shoulder and your head. So you know once you stop and consolidate right there, then you get that long leg doji with the upper part of the leg more bearish than the bottom part. You know to get out of that trade. That's an indicator to get out of the trade. That's a bearish indicator right there. Right into close. You got 5 minutes to make up your mind. Then the exit idea would have probably been right there off that candle, off the body of that candle. Same thing right here, the day before. You've got snake breakout, so you draw your trend line on the 5-minute. She comes down, she creates a little head and shoulders right here. You got your head, you got your shoulder line, and then she runs up and breaks on out of the snake. So you had your breakout, pull back, boom. Just magnify this up. Take your price line, run it from that bottom of that candle right there to that one. You got your left shoulder, you got your head. We broke out of the snake, so you know that we're bullish. Consolidates. You have 3 soldiers right there, and then it comes back and creates that left shoulder, and then you're off to the races. You know that you got higher lows. That's bullish sign right there. When you get higher lows, lower, higher, higher low, boom. So that's basically it. Learn them patterns. Watch what flag creates out of the snake. That's all you need right there. And then you want to study the candles, the dojis or the spinning top or the shooting star or some kind of long leg doji, inverted hammer. When you start seeing more wick at the top, that's an indication to go ahead and maybe take profit, especially if you're up nice. And me, I'm always out of the trade before everybody else. Sometimes I regret it. Big time. Last week, again, I had a couple trades where I could have just made a killing on. The week before that, it could have been a $50,000, $70,000 day on two days. Well, actually 1 day, but we had 2 big days where I got out way too early, and then they run up 2 or 3 grand on the SPX. So yeah, that's it. Study them patterns. Study them flags. Be patient. I think patience is the key accessory to getting in and out of these trades. Let them break out, let them pull back and create that flag. That flag is everything. Once it creates the flag and you study those flags, you'll know exactly when to take that squeeze and get out of that trade. And it's easier than remembering your Social Security number. Once you spot them, you can see them. And really on a foggy day, that's why I like trading with that 1 minute. I can see other flags besides other flags. I can see more flags, but I like to move around. I just started using the yearly candlestick this year, and I've been trading for 20 years. And I got it from Jake, who used to be one of the founders of TrendSpider. So, man, he's taught me a few things that just a couple simple things, and it changes your whole world. It changes everything about how you trade and how you look at things. But I think today's lesson is based on patience. If you're patient and you start to see the flags break out. I mean, here's the symmetrical flag. Look how easy it is to spot. Look how easy it is to spot right there. I didn't want to do that. Cancel left, cancel right, cancel right. Cancel left, cancel right. So you got your snake, break out, pull back into a symmetrical flag, count to 3, you can trade with me. And she breaks out. So that's it. I wish everybody a great tomorrow or Martin Luther King Day, and we'll catch you all later. Retail Traders, Sneaky Snake Trading Strategy, where I talk about chart patterns, moving averages, and being in the now, and how to spot them breakouts and be as patient as you want to be with it. Wait for that flag to show up, and then go ahead and take that squeeze. And you could run it up for, if you're using the 5-minute, you might get away with it for a good hour, hour and a half, be in that trade. And then when it starts to get weak, that bearish candlestick pros up, type in bearish candlestick and bullish candlestick. And you'll start looking at them bearish candlesticks a little bit closer once you get to a high. And that would be another exit idea. Just study them over and over and over again. And have a great day. Washboard Jim.